No jokes here, guys. That thumbnail is not clickbait. I'm going to teach you how to maintain your reef tank without ever having to test your water within reason. There are going to be scenarios where you have to test your water, fish dies or some kind of coral melts or something like that. And there's going to be a lot of people that hate this video and a lot of people that like this video. It's your reef tank. You choose what you want to do with it. I personally do test my water every single week. I'll show you. I actually have a book that I write it all in, but that is part of how you get to the point where you don't have to test your water ever again, within reason. Again, within reason. Don't attack me yet. Just hang on, just watch the video. First thing you're gonna do, you're gonna grab a notebook. Could be any notebook, doesn't have to be this one. I just use this one because I like it. If you're curious, this is a Lutch term. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I think 1917 model or something. It's 120 GSM paper, nice and thick. That way if you spill water on the paper, it doesn't just disintegrate, it'll like crinkle a little bit, but it'll still survive. It's not waterproof paper though. You can get a waterproof journal if you're smart, and then you gotta use Sharpie to write in it though, so just keep that in mind. Anyways, you're gonna get your journal. You're gonna get your test kits. For example, I use a lot of HANA checkers. I use the HANA alkalinity checker, the low nitrate checker, the phosphate checker, and I really need to get the calcium checker. That's next on my list here. So for those of you that are only gonna watch the first 2 minutes of this video, please subscribe because that really helps me a lot. But long story short, what you're gonna do is you're gonna test your tank regularly for a week or two. Test it every 2 days. But what you need to do while you're doing that testing, you need to measure exactly how much food goes in your aquarium. For this tank, I put a little less than a half a cube of frozen food, and I say a little less because sometimes it's a half a cube, sometimes a little less than a half a cube, and I do that every single day. So I put a half a cube of frozen food in my aquarium every single day. I know exactly how much intake is gonna go in that tank. Now the problem becomes when you start doing a half a cube of frozen food today, a pinch of pellets tomorrow. If you're not measuring like how many pellets you're putting in, for example, it could be a small pinch today, a large pinch tomorrow, like that can mess you up. So you really need to measure exactly how much food you're putting in your tank. Now, you can feed pellets, you don't have to feed frozen. If you're feeding pellets, that's great. Use a small little like measuring spoon or something to measure it so you know exactly how many pellets are going in your tank, that being maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon or something like that, right? Once you have your food being measured, you need to get your water changes on a schedule. So your water changes can be every single Friday after 5, you're gonna do 4 gallons on your 25 gallon, for example. Maybe every weekend, every Saturday or something, you do your water change. Just pick a day, pick a time that you know you're gonna be available. And I know some of us, it's really hard, like especially people who have like kids and family, like it's gonna be tough. But get your water changes on a schedule. Start dosing your tank on a schedule as well. If you're dosing anything, start measuring exactly how much you're dosing. Like if you're doing all for reef like I do, I know that I need about 2.5 milliliters at first. Like let's say I do a water change, I'll put 2.5 milliliters in, and then that'll bump my alkalinity from like 7.5 to like 8.9. And then after that, I need to wait probably a day or two and then put another like 0.5 mil to 1 mil in to maintain my alkalinity, to keep it in that like 8.3 to 8.9 range. And then that way, if I fall a little bit, I'm just a little too low, and if I go a little too high, then I'm just a little too high, and I'm right in that nice range there. Everything I'm mentioning here is really important. Everything I'm saying here is going to be the key to success. Everything needs to be measured, long story short, which I know a lot of us hate that, right? Like it sucks to have to think that much about your reef tank, but it'll all pay off in the long run. So you get everything measured, you get your notebook like this here, and you start to write down every single time you test. And I've been testing for, gosh, 2 months now. So you're gonna write down every single little test that you do. So looking through this book, I can see that, for example, my innovative marine lagoon had a DKH of 6.2 on July 9th. So during the cycle, you consume a lot of DKH as part of that. So it fluctuates a lot. But going to, something like 7:30, it was 8.3. So we're getting a little more stable. Okay. And then on August 8th, it was 8.6. On August 13th, it was 8.4. On August 18th, it was 7.9. So it started to drop a little bit, right? We did a water change on the 21st, and then it was a 7.1 after the water change. So we had to put in all for reef, and today is the 22nd. So now I need to test my alkalinity again. But I only know that because I've been logging all of this. Now you can use your favorite app if you don't want to use a journal. Once you've gotten a representative sample of how your reef tank reacts to exactly what you're putting in it consistently, if you're doing a water change every weekend. You're doing exactly 4 gallons every weekend. The salinity is always the same part per trillion or whatever, the PPT, or part per million, whatever it is, ppm. And you are putting exactly, this much measured food in your tank, and you know that what you've been doing in your tank is consistent and that it's relative to all your testing here. What you can effectively say is that, well, I know that every week I'm going to accrue, let's say, 25 nitrates, part per million of nitrate. Maybe my alkalinity dips from 8.9 to 8.5. And maybe my phosphates go from 0.02 to 0.04. And then you're doing that weekly water change and you're bringing all those back down to normal values. Let's say you do a water change and you test at the end of the week after the water change and your nitrate goes from maybe 25 to 5.7, something like that, okay? And then you're gonna let it go through the next week. You probably get back up to that 25 part per million of nitrate. You probably get your DKH going down a little bit, but you're measuring how much you're dosing, right? So you know that this is how my tank is stable. Like, this is what my tank is going through. And once you get to that point, you start to get to the point where you only test when you break the schedule or when something happens in your tank. Let's say a fish dies, let's say a coral melts, let's say you get a bunch of algae all of a sudden. Maybe you change your dosing products, maybe you change your salt, maybe you change your RODI system. Maybe your RODI system hasn't been changed in a long time and you start to get algae and it's like, well, hey, maybe something's going on here. Like, let me test and see, like, well, the phosphates are out of control. Well, maybe my DI resin's bad, or, something like that, right? Long story short, test the crap out of your tank, write down every result you get, measure everything you put in your tank, measure your food, measure your dosing, schedule all your water changes, all your maintenance, everything, write it all down. And then do that for a month. Test every couple days, every 2 or 3 days for a month, write it all down, and then you start to see patterns in your reef tank. Well, hey, I'm feeding this much, I'm getting this much nitrate, I'm getting this much, ammonia. Hopefully you're not getting ammonia, but you know what I mean. You're getting this much whatever. So with that said, we're going to test my aquarium today. We're going to use the Hanna low range nitrate checker. We're going to use the Hanna low range nitrate checker. We're going to use the Hanna DKH checker and the Hanna phosphate checker, and we're going to see how the aquarium is looking and how we are doing with our routine here. Editing Bradley here. This next series of clips is me testing my water, and it's meant to show you how long it takes to test your water. It takes like 30-40 minutes. This is not meant to be a tutorial on how to use each of these Hanna checkers, and I do make a couple mistakes here and there, so please don't follow my steps exactly. What I'm trying to say here is that if you tested your tank every 2 or 3 days for a month or two, and you got to know your routine, you got to know your aquarium, and you knew every week XYZ was going to happen with your parameters, and you only had to test when there was an abnormality in your tank, like a fish dies or something like that, or when there's a misstep in your routine, it will save you so much time, guys. And that is the point of this video. If you take away anything from this, that is what I'm trying to teach in this video, is that you can save so much time in reef keeping, because so many people complain that it takes so much maintenance and time. And I can do a water change in 10 minutes if I have my salt premixed. Just drain the tank, put the new tank water in. I literally turn my pump on pause. It pauses for 5 minutes and I get the water change done within that 5 minutes every single time, because I premix my salt water ahead of time. And it's the same thing with testing here. If I go ahead and I know exactly what I'm going to be using every week, and as far as food and dosing goes, and I know how much nitrate and how much alkalinity I'm going to gain or lose, then I can account for that in my weekly maintenance and not even have to test, and just know that most likely my parameters are within this range. So let's take a look. First, we're going to do the low range nitrate there. To test the low range nitrate, we first need to get our sample vial. The sample vial does require a 1 milliliter sample of aquarium water. We'll put that 1 milliliter of sample water in there. Now we're going to need 7 milliliters of pre-mixed nitrate-free salt water. So how I've done this, I've actually taken a Dasani water bottle and I have put salt in here. It's Instant Ocean. And this is 1.026 or 1.027 parts per million of salinity there. So we're going to take the 7 milliliters out of here and put it in our sample vial to dilute it. So we'll go ahead, we'll get, oh, see, I almost made a mistake right there, guys. This is meant to be water out of your water bottle, not your tank. I almost took 7 mils of water out of my aquarium there. Not a good idea. All right, let's get our 7 mils of water here. We're gonna put our 7 mils of water in here. Now you have to cap the sample vial and shake it 10 times. We now have our water diluted. To ensure we're properly diluted, we do have to take this and draw out 7 mils of this water and throw away 3. See, I've already made a second mistake here. We have to fill this up to the 10 milliliter mark with nitrate-free salt water. And I confused the dilution step with the amount of water going in here. So let's first get some more water in there. As you can see, testing can introduce a lot of end user error. All right, now to properly dilute, we need 7 mils of this water. That's where I was getting the 7 from earlier. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that. Okay, 7 mils, we're gonna dump out these 3 mils in the bottle. Now we have to put those 7 milliliters back in this bottle here. So now we have 7 mils of water in there, we're properly diluted. Now we can go ahead and add our reagent. Now we need 4 mils of this reagent here, which I've already gone ahead and measured in our syringe. We'll take our 4 milliliters of reagent, put it inside our container here. We're gonna take our cap, we're going to cap this and invert it 10 more seconds. Now we need to take reagent B. Go ahead, give this a little trim around the perimeter here. We're gonna take and put reagent B in our sample vial. I'm gonna do it off camera here so it's not on top of my aquarium because you don't wanna get any of your reagents in your aquarium. All right, reagent is in the bottle. You can see it's all cloudy down there. We're gonna shake this for 1 minute. Hey Siri, set a 1 minute timer. Now we have our sample vial properly mixed. You can see it's really cloudy and gross looking now. So what we have to do, we have to take that and draw it up into our syringe again. We'll go ahead, we'll suck all this up. Do not spill any of it. This is my best advice, guys. Take this vial, move it far, far away because you do not want to put this accidentally back in this vial in a minute. That will mess you up, and I have done that incorrectly before. So take this vial, put it out of the way. So now you have this syringe. You're gonna go ahead and cap the needle. It's not a sharp needle, but you just wanna cap it because there's chemicals on it. And you're gonna take this off. Now you have your syringe full of liquid, and you need to put a filter on here. The filter is a couple different pieces. You have a top and a bottom there, and you also have a little filter pad. So this is the little filter pad. You're gonna go ahead and take your filter pad, put it in the filter, go ahead and take the top piece with the O-ring, put it on there, and you're gonna screw these together nice and tight. I mean like extremely tight, like so tight you're worried about cross-threading. So now I'll say top, and it is completely sealed on there. There's no more tightness to it. I can't get any tighter than that. Now we're gonna take our syringe, take our little filter here, thread it on to the syringe, and now you need to go ahead and get a cuvette, not the sample container. So here we have a little cuvette. We're gonna put the tip on the cuvette and we're gonna start dripping this in there slowly, and this should take 30 to 40 seconds. It's all part of the fun process. If you go too fast with this, you will rip that filter in half, and then you gotta restart all over again, which is so much fun. Now we can actually get to the tester part of this. So let's take our tester. We're gonna open it up, make sure there's nothing in it. Cool, power it on, give it a second to think about it. It's got C1 on here now, so we can go ahead and put our cuvette in here. So we'll open this up again, put our cuvette in. I wipe my cuvette off, just make sure there's no fingerprints on it. I touched the glass there, just pretend I didn't. Can you guys tell I'm a little fed up with the test already? So now it's on C2, which means that we got to take the cuvette out of here. So we take this out, and now we have to put reagent C inside of it, guys. So there's yet another reagent to put in here. Now the reagent is in the bottom of the cuvette. We have to take this and shake it for 2 minutes. Hey Siri, set a 2-minute timer.
2 minutes starting now.
I forgot to hit record on my camera, but the sample vial will have a purplish color to it. You'll wipe it off, put it in your Hana checker, and then press and hold this button, and that will start the 8-minute timer, and then it will tell us what our nitrate is. While this checker is going, we're gonna go ahead and check our other parameters here, like alkalinity and phosphate. So alkalinity is my favorite one. You literally turn your checker on, and it loads for a second. You need to take your sample vial and put 10 mils in here. Once you have your 10 mil sample of your water, you're gonna go ahead and put it in your checker, close this bad boy up and hit the button on C1. It will then think for a minute. While it's thinking, we're gonna get this ready. We're gonna need 1 mil of our reagent. You do need to have this little fancy tip on. The little fancy tip is what they say in their instruction. And then we'll go ahead and draw up 1 mil here. Okay, we've got our 1 mil. We're gonna go and take this out. Put our 1 mil in here. We do have to invert this about 10 times, so 1 miss. We can then wipe it off, put our sample vial back in here, close this bad boy up, and then we can hit the button for C2 and it will tell us our alkalinity. So our alkalinity is 7.7. So we're just a tad low. We do need to dose some Reef today to bring that up again. Close this up. Guys, this is brutal. I forgot to have my camera on yet again. So it is measuring my phosphates right now, but the long story short with this, you turn this checker on, it gets to C1. You put 10 mils of tank water in the cuvette, wipe it off, put it in the Nano checker, hit the button on C1. It will take a couple seconds to think about it, and it will get you a baseline reading, you know, clean tank water. You'll take your cuvette out of here, you'll add your reagent, which is right here, and your reagent will need to be shaken for 10 to 20 seconds just to fully dissolve before you put it back in the cuvette, or before you put your cuvette back in your phosphate checker. Press and hold down the button and it'll start a 3-minute timer, which is where we're at right now, and it'll tell us our phosphates in a minute. Now you can see, because I don't know if my camera's on or not, that our nitrate checker has finished and it's reading 1.47, which means that you have to multiply this by 10, so our nitrates will be 14.7. which is right around where I would expect, because I tested yesterday, and yesterday it was 15.7, so it's gone down 1 ppm overnight. Now, because I test my tanks so regularly, I know that my nitrate will go up to about 25 in a week's time. So since I'm already at 15 and I just did a water change yesterday, it might even go up to like 35 at the end of this next week. So I will need to maybe do just a slight water change at the end of the week, or I could adjust my feeding and feed just a little less throughout the week, and hopefully that will account for it. We won't know, of course, unless we test it, but that's what I'm trying to explain here, is that you need to test your tank regularly to get an understanding of how your tank reacts. I mean, our alkalinity is just slightly low, so we still need to dose all for Reef. We'll see what our phosphates are at here, and our nitrates are in check for now. But if you don't test your tank regularly, and if you don't measure how much food you're putting in regularly, and you don't regularly do your water changes the exact same way, I've said regularly so many times that I can't even say it anymore, but if you don't do it in that frequency and that regularity, you will not understand your tank, and you'll be chasing this game of I dosed too much, I fed too much, I did too many or too little water changes, and it will drive you nuts with what your levels are reading. So here we go, phosphates almost done. And we have how many phosphates? How many do I need to pass? We have 0.01. So we have like 0 phosphates in here, which is awesome. And this also, I tested this yesterday as well, and it was 0.02. So with our water change, we lowered our phosphates from 0.02 to 0.01. So we need to not do any water changes for a while, because if you bottom out your tank and you make all these values like 0 nitrate, 0 phosphate because you're doing too many water changes, that will also destroy your aquarium. So you need to find a balance of enough water changes that you are reducing these parameters within acceptable levels, but not reducing them to the point where they're absolutely 0. You can look up online, everyone recommends a different way to keep your tank, but a lot of people will recommend keeping phosphates anywhere between 0 to 0.05, and your nitrates anywhere from 10 to 15 usually, and your alkalinity anywhere from 8 to 9 unless you're doing a high alk tank, and then you can do somewhere around like 11 to 12. But you definitely don't want to go under 7 or over 13, and you definitely don't want your phosphates above like 1 part per million at most, and you definitely don't want your nitrate above like 30 or 40 at most, I would say. And if you're doing SPS, you want your nitrate to be like below 5, which is where the ultra low range nitrate checker would actually be the best choice. But for my mixed Reef, these parameters are fine. I will dose some for Reef to increase alkalinity. I will, this phosphate's totally under control, but we'll obviously test in probably a couple weeks and see how it's doing. And the nitrates, we just got to watch out because it's already 15. So at the end of the week, I'll test that again and see if that is above like 30 or 40 there. But that's the video, guys. I just wanted to tell you all my methodology for testing and how I believe that rather than testing every single day or two, what you need to do is test every couple days for a month or two. Get to know your tank really well, get to know your routine, get your procedures in place, and then you can ride that until you encounter something unusual in your tank, until a fish dies or something like that, and then you'll have to make adjustments then.